Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lewis.
Welcome to the Rangers journey.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's post-match reaction to Rangers' draw at Ibrox against Braga. And what I'd say it was a windy Ibrox. Certainly, you've seen that play its part during the game. To join me, I have Chris, I have Marty, and there is Andrew from the Ibrox channel. We'll just basically go through the game, get their initial thoughts, and we'll just dissect it sort of half by half, because there's plenty to talk about. Don't get me wrong, there was plenty of action in that game. It all just sort of seemed to come in small sections at a time. There was times where nothing was happening, and the next thing a lot of things happened at one time. It was kind of strange. Chris, just your thoughts then on the game overall before we really get stuck into it.
Jock, good to be with you. Good evening, everyone. I'm struggling with that one, Jock. If I'm honest, I'm looking at some of the comments: powder puff, honking, rotten. You could say everything on it. I don't know. It's a strange one. I think for the first 30 odd minutes we never got going, and then I think as soon as we got our first shot in the 32nd minute, we seemed to be the better team towards the end of the first half and started okay second half. But I think it's just been a story of Rangers season, Jock, in the Europa League this season. It just doesn't. It's just something that's not exciting the fans at the moment because of everything that's going on. And I think if you were to ask the fans at the moment, stop the Europa League now and just concentrate in the league, then they would bite your hand off for it, because I think it's just becoming more of a distraction, and it's an opportunity for more injuries, like we're potentially seeing tonight with Chermity and Aaron's at the end there. So yeah, frustrating, Jock, is probably my overall feelings on this one.
Yeah, I said the same pre-match about could we really take our focus off this now because of the position we're in, and I don't see us qualifying at this stage now. We really needed a win in the last game and then a win tonight to have any sort of chance going post-Christmas, but that's not going to happen. Andrew, just again, your thoughts then on the game overall quickly before we sort of dissect it further.
Yeah, but much like Chris said, it was a very weird game because Braga just weren't really at it tonight, and don't get me wrong, they kind of broke away a couple of times. I think I can't remember the guy's name, not Martinez. It'll come to me in a minute. But he broke away a couple of times, and you thought, okay, he's going to be the danger man out on the left, and it didn't really happen. But then we were kind of trying to force the ball in the final third. We were kind of there. We were lacking creativity, but we had the ball up that end of the park, and at times Braga were kind of struggling to get out, but we weren't really doing anything with it. Anytime we did get a chance, it would just fizzle out because we take an extra touch too long, and we just look scared. We look like an amateur side up against Barcelona, and just like too scared to do anything, and that was just the annoying thing.
Yeah, you're spot on. Marty, just quickly, your thoughts on overall before we dig deeper.
Well, I think Chris and Andrew have said it all, really. I mean, we had spells where we actually looked pretty good, but there's quite a lot of the game where we looked like we couldn't do the basics. A simple pass was being cut out, and it's, especially from defence as well. We should never be doing those kind of passes. And it just flabbergasts me that we've got players that will even have the audacity to try that. And the game was a little bit of swings and roundabouts. They had spells and we had spells. But, I mean, the penalty was an interesting one for me because I actually thought the Gassama tackle was a penalty before we actually got one. So
yeah, we'll touch on that.
I think it was a wee bit of a, oh, well, I've made a mistake, so I'll give this one. But, yeah, it wasn't a great game to watch, really. It was too stop-start, too slow and methodical for Rangers. They needed to be a bit quicker in their play. If you watch when they play league games, they don't play that slowly. So Braga were there for the taking tonight, and just too many players didn't show up.
Yeah, I think so. I think you could say that, but obviously that's a sort of sums up the season, really, doesn't it? That there's too many players didn't turn up. A handful did tonight, Barn being one of them, sort of stand out. for me. Chris, we'll go then into this. I'm just looking at my notes here. So I thought it was kind of like a nervy start at the first sort of 10, 15 minutes. Both teams sort of try to feel each other out, and then two chances within the space of 2 or 3 minutes. They showed their quality, they showed their ability to cut us open, and we have Butland to thank for it staying 0-0 twice.
Absolutely. Look, Jack Butland's kept us in the game with those two saves. If those two go in, it could have been game over at that point in time. And I think Jack Butland, to be fair, is probably one of the ones that gets the pass marks tonight, Jock, in terms of that. But it was just, I think, even at that, it's frustrating when you think back at the chances we then had. I know we didn't get our first chance until the 32nd, 33rd minute. It was the first shot and goal we had, but it was frustrating because we had some really good clear-cut chances. But defensively, Jock, through the game, we were just, apart from Jack Butland, I thought defensively we were really, really poor. Aaron's, to be fair to him, if I give a shout to him, I thought Aaron's had an okay game. Left back's not his position, as we know. I think McCoy in commentary said it. He kept cutting back in on his right foot to put balls in the box when it's crying out for a left winger to go in there with some, and eventually obviously get taken off with it. But yeah, we were really lucky to get to the half-hour mark with it still being nothing each. Jock, I think was the key, and then obviously we got a few chances after that. But I think Braga, for me, if they wanted to step up another gear, they could have. I know they were missing a couple of players; they've not been playing well the last couple of weeks or so. But if they wanted to step up another gear, I think they could have tonight. And my worry at the moment, Jock, and I'm sure we'll get into it a wee bit more detail or maybe on another one. My worry at the moment for Rangers is how many positions we need to change and upgrade so badly. I don't think I've been sitting here saying actually we need to make so many changes as what we have, even after what we just did in the summer. So that's the thing that's worrying me at the moment, Jock. And I think nights like tonight, when you're playing against a side like Braga, who, let's be honest, have been pretty good, it exposes how bad we really are. And I think the league position in the league games, maybe, I know the 4 wins out of 4 maybe masked that a little bit. And I know we talk about it's all about the league and that's our focal point. But when you get to the night, and nights like tonight, and how good we have been in previous seasons compared to where we are, I think the challenge we've got now is that we really need to upgrade significantly, and we're never going to be able to get that done in 1 or 2 windows. That's a big worry, Jock, for me.
Well, that's the thing, because the summer windows downgraded the squad overall drastically, and we've seen that quite early on in the season. But now you're seeing it at this point in the season where the internationals is over, and we're already struggling with what we have to produce any sort of quality. And I'm seeing the folk in the comments saying that left-hand side. Now, you take Arns as an example. Obviously, he's playing at a position. He's asking him to do a job with his wrong foot. We're used to our Hivers left back to bombing forward, hitting the byline, putting a cross in the box. He can't do that with his left foot. He needs to cut back. And by the time he cuts back, the space that was already there is gone. And we've seen that time and time again tonight, because he wasn't going as deep to get the cross in. He was turning back, sort of in line with the 18-yard box to try and put the ball in the box, because that it's just what he was natural and is comfortable with. Andrew, obviously we'll talk about the defence, because we've got that in the second half. But going into the game, then obviously we knew it was going to be makeshift with Giga and Fernandez again, because of obviously the injuries to Suter and Cornelius. Did you have any apprehension going into the game, or did you think, obviously they played together Saturday against Livingston? As we all know, there was this calamitous sort of goal there. Were you worried at all, or do you think that game would help them going into this kind of game?
I think with DJ, yeah, I think he's been he's had little elements where he's been quite good, but he's then suddenly, I think lately, had more bad than good, and I think that's the worry. I think he's regressing a little bit as well, which again is a big worry. I think Fernandez hasn't been too bad. I think it's good to have somebody with his heights. You saw his goal against Livingston, handy to kind of header the ball away in the box. Might not be as technically gifted as somebody like Cornelius, but yeah, I thought personally going into this, I thought the weak link would more be DJ at the minute, unless he was going to put in, again, another great performance, which he can do at times. He can do it, but we're not seeing it enough. I I think seeing Aaron's out on the left was probably something I thought was probably more of a concern, though. Just with the opposing foot, because he can be very good at sucking in a player, taking them on the turn, and then creating space. But I thought he might be a bit limited on that side. But yeah, centre back pairing. You could see tonight, actually, Braga didn't actually create a hell of a lot. Now, I think that's probably more on Braga not really turning up tonight, a cold, windy night in Govan. It's not for everyone. You're from Portugal. But, again, though, if we were under some severe pressure, I think we probably could have crumbled more. But... yeah, it's a frustrating one. Obviously, we'll get into other stuff later on, but I think I looked at DJ and possibly Aaron's being kind of out of position, even though he's played there before and at different clubs there before. I thought that was the kind of areas. I thought Fernandez might handle it okay.
Marty, the last sort of 15 minutes, then Rangers kind of came into the game and started forcing chances, and Diamandi sort of pushed further forward, and they started getting involved more, which we're crying out for, because we needed to get in behind. We needed to stretch Braga and try and get up the pitch, because we were pressing them without really getting much success. But then in the sort of the first half hour, but then there's the second half, the last half of the first half went on, we started picking up loose passes because they were panicking. And the press was working, and we obviously started getting a bit of joy from it, and it was good to see that start to, because let's say we're the home team, we're the ones who should be doing that.
I agree. We should be pressing that ball constantly every time we're at home, regardless of what the opposition are. Doesn't really matter what standard they are either. It should be a natural thing for us to be pressing the game and trying to go out and win the game, not just look for a draw or defend and counter attack like we've seen previously. For me, it was a little bit like we were too scared in the first 15, 20 minutes, and then we started to go, okay, these aren't playing as well as what we expected them to. Now we can actually try and play some football. And that's when we started to see a few changes, whether that was Danny on the side had told Dio to push up a little bit further, or whether it was just the players doing it themselves. But there was definitely a change within that 25-minute, half-hour mark where you've seen that the Rangers players were actually starting to push further forward and press that little bit higher up. I mean, at one point they were camped in their 18-yard box and couldn't get out. So it shows it can work when you've got the players all working together. But again, it's the consistency of being able to do it over 90 minutes.
Well, that's it. That's the key part of any press is they have to do it as a unit. They have to press as a unit, and they'll have to be organised and targeting the right players to press at the right time and do that as a unit. And it's something we've struggled with for a good couple of years. Any manager we've had at Rangers for a unified press, but other teams seem to do it well against us. Chris, the penalty then, obviously for handball, but there was an incident before where Gassama gets fouled, and I think it's clumsy on the Braga player's half, because there's a couple angles you didn't see much, but then there's a perfect angle that showed you him. He's slipped and he's caught Gassama in his foot, and the way he's moved it, Gassama sort of went up sideways and landed down. I thought that should have been a penalty, and I was disappointed when they ruled it out on the VAR and done the check and it was over. But then we go to the handball 2 or 3 minutes later, and that is given, which to me I think soft. But again, you're in this realm now where any ball in the box and your hands raised anywhere above your waist, you're dicing, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was saying to the boys on the WhatsApp group, I actually thought, and he's going to laugh at me for this, and I'm interested to see some of the comments. I actually thought it was a VAR masterclass tonight. I really did, right? With the exception of maybe the Gassama one, because the Gassama one, the first one, I'm being honest, I see it both ways, right? I can see the boy slipped, and that's what's caused the issue. And I think that's maybe what the referee's seen, the boy slipped at that. And if that's given against you, the first thing you're saying is the boy slipped, right? That's what you'd be saying in that situation. So my view on that one is I think the VAR got it right by not giving the penalty. I think when you look at the penalty that was given for the handball, nobody's seen that handball. Nobody's seen it. I'm sitting there looking at that, I'm thinking, what are they looking at here, right? Absolutely nobody's seen it at all. So for me, this is the point I'm making. This is where VAR, for me, gave Scottish referees a masterclass tonight, because I felt that VAR stepped in and gave the right decisions, or at least said to the referee to go and have a look at it and make the decisions from there. And I think what it does show is it does show the difference between Scottish handling of VAR and European handling of VAR. That's the proper way to handle VAR. We might not agree with some of the decisions, we might not like some of the decisions, but in the cold light of day and the rules that are there, that's VAR playing at its best. So from that point of view, even with the sending off job, which I'm sure we'll come to as well, the boys obviously, you could argues how they touched them, right? He's how they touched Raskin, but at the end of the day, the intent's there with it moving the head forward. So VAR's done its job in that sense of it. And I think for me, that's one of the things that I think Scottish football at the moment is really lacking. We've spoken about this in previous pods, but tonight I thought VAR and the referee got 95% of the decisions correct. I think there was maybe a couple of ones we were sitting thinking, that was a bit iffy, but most of it you would say it was fine. And I think, you know what, see when you get the penalty, Tav puts it away, you go in at the break jock up, right? And I thought from there on in, the substitutions have to be vital at that point. You need to make the right ones. A few comments are saying it just now. I don't think the right subs were made tonight. I really don't. I'm surprised your likes of Curtis and Cameron wasn't brought on. Asgard, for me, is not doing anything. I don't think he does anything for us. Danilo shouldn't have been left on that left-hand side for as long as what he should have. Curtis goes in there for me all day long. That was a bit of a strange one, especially when they go down to 10 men. He took Barron off, which I can see the intent behind why he took Barron off, but you need to put a better player in there. You can't put Asgard in there at that point in time for me. I can see why he's doing that, but maybe put Miovski on at that point in time if you're going to do that. You know what I mean? That was the strange ones for me. But look, I think I'm going to try and put a positive slant in this drop for me, and I think the positive is it's not another defeat in Europe, right? It's a draw. It's a bit of progress. And I think what I really liked about Rangers throughout the whole game was the high press they played. They certainly played it in the first half, maybe not as much in the second half, but they put a real high press in. They showed a bit of an aggression, and that's the first time we've really seen that in a European game. So, look, I'm hoping it's a wee bit of progress. I know I'm clutching at straws a little bit here. I'm hoping it is a wee bit of progress, and I'm hoping that Rangers can see some of that and they can maybe take that on. But just disappointed that we didn't go on, Jock, after half time and really show the game up. That was my biggest disappointment in that one, right?
Andrew, obviously, as Chris says there, Tav takes a penalty, scores it, and then goes level with Alan McCoist as European goal scorer, which is some freak for a right back, isn't it?
Oh, it really is, especially when you look at Morelos only overtook him a couple of seasons ago, about 3 seasons ago now, which was a phenomenal thing because nobody had kind of knocked Ali off that perch with European football and goals. And you look at a right back doing that now. So he's level with Ali now, so joint second. But it won't be long, I think, before Ali drops to third, which will be quite sad for Ali. But I guess it just shows how vital Tav has been in European football. And it's not just penalties. And I think that's important to say. Yes, his goal today was a penalty, but there's so many scored in Europe from open play, especially under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, where he would kind of actively push him up right to the far post at times, especially you see him go in and then he'll grab a goal right at that far post, and just brilliant. It was good for him to get the goal, and as a captain, you're getting that goal before half time when we haven't scored many goals in the Europa League this season, and you're taking the team in at half time, you're hoping you can build on that, and just sadly we didn't. But yeah, great for Tav. I'm really happy for him.
Stick with you, Andrew. Just Barron, how did you think Barron played? I thought Barron was fantastic the full game.
Yeah, Barron kind of puts in that kind of performance that's a little bit of an unassuming, a little bit of a Papach performance in some respects. You know, he is quite solid. He does the job well. But there was so much tonight that it kind of took the eye off it. I think it's a shame we just don't have that little bit of extra quality in the side, because I think Barron would do much better with better players around him. But yeah, Barron had a fairly decent performance tonight. There's not many players that do get pass marks tonight. I think we looked very cagey, very nervous almost, and just always with the wrong decisions. But yeah, Barron, a fairly solid player. He had a fairly solid performance tonight.
Marty, Andrew's talking about wrong decisions and a nervy performance, but I felt, this is my interpretation of it, I thought it was a nervy performance, particularly from the two centre backs when they were asked to try and play the ball forward, because there was no urgency and it was safe. If they didn't think they could get the ball forward, they turned and come back, and it was the same in the first half and it was the same in the second half. Poor decision making and people scared to make that pass and try and start something from the back when this is what we're asked to do because we're playing out the back from the goalkeeper. A frustration of mine that's we've seen it obviously under the previous manager as well, and I think it's still lurking within the current setup that there's a fear of playing the wrong pass or losing and then the crowd getting on their backs.
Well, I think that the issue with the defence is that it's been a long going problem. It's not a Danny Rowe or a Martin Russell or any of that Russell Martin. It's been a long standing issue for Rangers where we have this thing of passing the ball across the back four, predominantly the two centre backs. Doesn't really matter who the centre backs are. We seem to do it quite a lot in games, and we're not decisive enough in passing forward. It's always, we'll pass to the side, see if we can create a gap. But by the time they've done that, all the other players have moved to close those gaps anyway. So I agree with your frustration on that part. But for me, I don't think I don't want people to think that I've got a thing against Jigga, because I don't. I just don't think he's good enough to be at the club. Out of the two defenders tonight, for me, Fernandes was the better of the two defenders.
I agree.
Jigga just seemed lost. He seemed like he didn't know how to do basics. And I mean, the example of that is his header. I mean, it's just basic defending. It's the same thing from this boy every time. It's basic defending. And how a club in England could pay 10 million for him. I know we talk a lot about Chermiti and his 10 million, but Jigga valued at 10 million, you've got to be having a laugh. There's not a club in England that would touch him for 10 million. No way whatsoever. He's just not worth it. He's too mistake prone. He's, as I said in our chat earlier, it's not an if with Jigga, it's when. When's he going to make that mistake? And more often than not, unfortunately for him, it's cost us goals. And it's been an issue regardless of who he's played with at the back. I mean, he's done it with Suter. I think he was at a spell where Tavernier was played centre back in one of the games briefly as well. And he was a bomb scare then as well. So I don't think it particularly matters who he's paired against. He just looks scary to watch as a defender. And it's not a good scary either. It's what's he going to do here that's going to cost us? And until we can sort that, then we could be able to build from the back. But I do agree that it's a fundamental issue with the pass across the pitch at the back. That seriously needs to stop. We need to be looking out wide at the players like Gassama and see what they can do with the ball, or even have a playmaker in the middle of the pitch that we can pass it to that can find a pass forward from there. Passing it back and forward between the centre backs is just not good enough at our level.
Yeah, it's a frustrating part and parcel that I think is just lingered around this Rangers team for a couple of years now. Before we touch on the second half, then I'll just give a shout out to our pod sponsor, which is the Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen in Lanzarote. If you're over in Lanzarote, definitely give them a shout because they'll give you a warm welcome, and they are family friendly. You can eat, drink, chill, party, and yes, of course, they show every Rangers game live because there's nothing better than watching the game overlooking the ocean with a beer or a cocktail or wherever your tipple is, and their sun-kissed balcony and the nice shade if it's too hot. So pop in and say hi to the team over there at the Bluebells Bar. Chris, second half then, there was a lot going on. Obviously, Gassama has a chance, keeper saves. The ball sort of ricocheting in the box, sort of bounces about a bit. We sort of creating chances, we're sort of huffing and puffing without really creating anything that's, I would say, goal worthy. And then the Braga player decides to just lose his head, literally, for a split second, and we get a red card. And after that, to me, I actually thought Braga seemed a better team, which is disappointing.
Yeah. Totally agree. Honestly, Joe, I totally agree with you. I think the worst thing that happened to Rangers is them going down to 10 men. And that's happened a couple of times now this season. Somebody's been down to 10 men against us and they've looked a better team. I just can't figure that one out at the moment, if I'm being honest. No, I think, look, you take the couple of chances that were there. Chermiti had a chance at the back post. I think he's got to do better with that one. He's got to put that in. You've got the Gisama one. Again, he flatters to receive for me too much, Gisama. Tonight he was okay, but he's got so much more in him. I just don't think we're seeing enough from him at the moment. I've said that a few times now in different pods, and then obviously Diamondi had a chance as well. Raskin, I think, had one in the edge of the box where he's tried to chip it over, and you're screaming, shoot, is what you're wanting him to do at that point, especially his left foot. So it was frustrating. It was really frustrating at that point because if Rangers had got a second goal, obviously that it shows it up for you then at that point in time, and you're walking away with the money and the 3 points. But again, it's just that frailty at the back, and look, I don't want to be Mr. Weatherman here and give the players an out from the weather, but it did seem a bit difficult at certain points in time where the ball was every time it was going up. And again, this is my frustration, Jock. They're punting high balls into that box. The wind is just bringing it straight back. Put the ball on the ground rather than trying to throw a high ball into the box. I couldn't understand. 6 minutes at the end, you think to yourself, great. And I think we only get the last 30 seconds of that, which was just so frustrating as well. So that's where the frustration comes in for me, Jock. There wasn't anything really in that second half, which was crazy. But can I just make a point before you jump on? The comments and Marty was talking about Jigga and the value of him, and people said in the comments as well. For me, this is where I think the loan market for Rangers is vitally important. And I know they get a bad rep for it, right, because of the amount of players they take. But can you imagine if we had bought Jigga outright for a value of anywhere from 5 million upwards, between 5, 6 to 10, right? And then you've got Chermiti in there. That's 2 players of 8 to 10 million that you'd have been saying has been absolutely wasted. So this whole try before you buy scenario, and even you could probably even put Aaron's into maybe the 3-4 million bracket just because he's in the English Premiership, right? That for me is where the importance of this loan market. You need to try before you buy. Okay, we should be trying in other markets and we should go and try somewhere else rather than English leagues, but it's vitally important because we don't want to end up with the type of players we've got, and then you see after 6 months that they're not cut out for it up here. So that for me is really is an important one, and I think if Rangers could maybe cut short some of these loan signings in the January window, bring a couple of other new loan signings in if they need to, just to try and before the buy, I think that'll be vitally important because nights like tonight show you need that experience to get people over the line. And really, if that was a Philip Clement team, or if that was a Van Bronckhorst team, even a Michael Beale team, they've got the experience in that team to get that game over the line tonight. And whereas tonight we just didn't have that in the team, and I think that's the big frustration for not just us, but for every Rangers fan who's watching that tonight, mate.
Andrew, do you think that experience Chris is talking about walked out the door in the summer and was never replaced, or is it a part of that as well as maybe an experience from a manager's perspective as well, where he's not got the experience of a game like this where you're at home, you're sitting one up, the team's went down to 10 men, and as Chris says, the substitutions at this point need to be key to A, obviously see out the game, or B, capitalise on the fact they're down to 10.
Yeah, it was weird because towards the end of last season, I think we all thought this is probably the worst Rangers team we've seen in a long time. It lacked energy, it lacked depth, it was really running on fumes, and it had needed a change at least the season before, which was really frustrating. But of course, it was all due to the getting the club in the financial state for the takeover so that everything would go through smoothly. I just think it boils down to Thelwell, Purdy, all these kind of people in the background that looked. It was that excuse from Thelwell of, we didn't have a lot of time to prep, so we just looked at the market we knew, the English Championship. Right, still we're looking at players, way before they came into the role. we've not gone for the best players. We've the Chimiti deal is just still just tonight. Just looking at the lad, and I don't want to put unnecessary pressure on him, but you do need pressure as a Rangers striker, especially when you cost £8 million. I think personally the role he's really seen the bare bones of this squad now, and I think he doesn't trust a lot of them. If I'm being honest, I think he knows they're not capable, and I think that's why. Don't get me wrong, you can still make some tactical tweaks. Especially like Chris was saying at half time, you're a goal up, get a few of them changes on. I'd like to have seen someone like Curtis on. Yes, he's young, yes, he's a little bit raw, but he'll take a man on and cut inside and get a shot away, and I think that's something that we needed. Danilo looked quite off it tonight, and I think he was trying too hard in some respects, especially when that ball kind of came out the box, and Barron's running onto it, and you can just tell that it's perfectly setting up for him to just lash at it and just smash it into the net, and Danilo takes that shot, takes the sting out of it and just throws it into the air, and it was just so frustrating. And when you saw when we're a goal up, they've gone down to 10 men, and you think, right, we can control this game now, we can get this game buried, done, 3 points on the board, another win over Braga, and we just didn't do it. And we just looked very I don't want to use the word uninterested. It's not that at all. It's just we just look incapable. And again, we did have that little spell where we pumped the ball in a couple of times, got a couple of decent shots away, and then it just dried up again. Braga looked better when they went down to 10 men. They all just kind of rallied together, were organised, and the fact that they managed to score, especially when we're in that position where it's almost been gifted to us. We've got a penalty, we've got a goal from that. They're down to 10 men. Sometimes it's just your night, and it should have been, and it wasn't. Yeah, I think Rule just isn't happy, and I think we might see a good few transfers in January. Yes, it's a hard market, but I think Rule, you might see the type of player that he wants for Rangers, and it might be quite interesting, I think. But again, it depends who's available.
Would you cut some of the loans short, Andrew?
Yes, I think we'd have to, actually, because I think obviously with you can only have a certain amount of loan players as well, so I think we do need a few. Yeah, I think with the ones that aren't working, I think you do just have to send them back, as long as you're not leaving yourself too short. But it depends what the makeup of them deals are. We might have to still pay the rest of the contract. I don't know. I say contract, the loan agreement, but there does need to be some sort of change, and there does. It's for the money we've spent. And you know what? With some of these players, you look at somebody like Oliver Antman, you look at his stats, what he's done before, you go, I can see why they went for him, fair play. That's a pretty good addition. And you can see it with a few of the guys. You look and go, okay, you can see Asgard's a bit raw, but plays quite well for Norway. But they're just not working. And I think it's just because they just haven't grasped what it is to be at Rangers. You don't just need players that are better than the rest. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. You do need to have a belief and a squad that is capable of going out there, going to your Dingwalls on a cold Tuesday night, going to places like that and winning convincingly. And this is the worry now. That kind of honeymoon period that Danny Rule's had is kind of probably over now a little bit. So we are going to now start to see that kind of, can we keep the wins coming, because we need to get through to January, and we need to make sure that gap doesn't get any bigger, because they're not amazing at the minute. Granted, they won tonight as well, but they're going through a kind of period where they should have strengthened in the summer and didn't. We should be exploiting that 100%, and we're not.
Yeah, that's it. Back to the game then. Obviously, look, we've already touched on it. The Jigga goal was just I'm gonna say it's a gift. It's just ridiculous. I think everybody could see that they could have done something better. He could have done anything else with the ball. He might have actually just left it, and Fernandez behind him might have done better with it if Jigga didn't actually touch it. But it is what it is. It's one of those ones. It's on him, and he's to own that mistake. It's cost us. It's cost us the 3 points at the end of the day. So I'm sure the players will be not short. The fans will definitely not be short and letting them know that. Go on then. The Miovski handball. Marty, did you agree? Did your heart sink at the time? I did when I seen the first replay, and you saw the way he moved his body, but you seen obviously from their angle, you seen what he's trying to do, and I think he just gets that shoulder area onto the ball more so than the arm, and I think I think I've had Scotland, as Chris says, we've got a lesson how to use VAR. I think if that's Scottish VAR, I think that's a pen all day long.
Yeah, seeing the angle from behind that they showed quite a lot, it was we might be in trouble with this. But once they showed the angle from me, you could see the front of him. You could see he's deliberately trying to lean his shoulder down to have it as high up as he can. So credit to him for trying to get his shoulder down to the ball. I do agree with the Scottish FA's VAR system that I think they'd possibly get the referee to go to the monitor to have a look at that. And it'd be a referee's decision because it would be too close for them to call, but there'd be a question of doubt, so they'd give it to the referee. I think VAR definitely got that one correct tonight, where they've obviously had a close look at it, especially from the angle where you could see the front of him and you could see that it's been up here. So he's not deliberately lifted his arm, because I know they've got this thing about the rule where if your arm's in an unnatural position, which is up, then they'll penalise you for it. So he did have his arms down. He wasn't deliberately trying to put his arm out to the ball. He did lower his shoulder as well, so he done everything he could to try and make sure it wasn't a handball. But again, we're putting ourselves in that position in the first place. He shouldn't be there in that position with that happening. So it's a category of errors that is causing these situations that are giving us these panics where we're going, ooh, are we going to get that given against us? And it's a problem which, I know I'm going back a little bit here, but it's a problem for me from what I've been watching, or at least my perspective. From when Gerrard left, we've consistently been downgrading each area. We've had a good player, they've been sold off, so we've bought another one in for cheaper, and they've not quite reached that same level. And at every stage since then, we've been getting lower and lower and lower. And then obviously we've had the clear out of our predominant left backs in the summer. And we've brought in a loan player to cover that. And if you look at the players we've brought in, the quality just isn't there. And it's across the board with the players that have been brought in. The quality isn't there. And it doesn't matter how hard to try and how many managers we go through, the quality isn't there. And that there's something needs to be changed in the recruitment process so that we avoid even getting these players on loan, which was mentioned earlier, try before you buy. Or even buying them. We need to avoid these kind of players like Rothwell. Since Russell Martin's gone, he's been non-existent. So he's been an abject failure of a buy in the summer. So we need to stop this process that we've been in for a while now of bringing in players that we think are just as good. We shouldn't be aiming for just as good. We should be aiming for better. We don't want squad players. We want starting players to push the 11, not just sit on the bench. And I think that's where our problem lies, and that's why we're having issues we're having, where we're having these panic station moments at the back, and we're having midfielders that are doing last-ditch tackles. I mean, I think that's the second or third time Dio's been sent off this season. I agree, it was soft, but at the same time, he shouldn't even be doing that in the first place.
But he's the only one that really is putting those kind of tackles in, though. I feel like I think yes, he puts himself in positions that he probably shouldn't, but I feel like he's the only one that's putting a foot in to do these kind of tackles, because we need that. We need somebody to put tackles in and break up play and be that nitty gritty thing. Raskin does it, but Raskin's cuter, and I think he gets away with it. Raskin doesn't go to ground the same way Dio does. I think Dio gets. I think he just gets a wee bit, gets it tight a wee bit. In my opinion, and I say that whenever you see the replay back, he's not aiming to elbow the guy. His eyes is on the ball, and again, that could have went either way. I think it's very, very soft. I thought.
I do agree that it was soft, but I mean, if you give an example of tonight's game, Barron done that dirty side of the game. That's why he doesn't get a lot of credit. He done that dirty side of the game tonight, and he showed that he can break up the attacks and get that pass forward that is needed for Rangers. So if Dio needed an example, he had one right next to him. And he's had it throughout the season and for seasons that he's been here. But he still seems to make these silly decisions where he'll go flying into a tackle where he'll get booked and he knows he's then on a yellow, or he'll just get a straight red. And there's just, when you know you're on a yellow card, you know you can't put in a tackle. If you look at the replay, he was behind him when he went in for that silly tackle. So he should have known on a yellow card you shouldn't be doing that. So that's where I have the problem.
I'd
Can
say
I,
this-
can I come in there, Jock? I was just going to say that I hear what you're saying, Marty, but we need to remember he wasn't sent off for the tackle. He was sent off for an arm. That was what he was sent off for. It was the arm to the side is what you get sent off for. He was in for the yellow card for the tackle the first time round. I think it was really harsh, if I'm honest. And the reason I wanted to jump in there, Marty, apologies, is I wanted to ask the question is, was there a rule change that said if you're getting sent off in Europe for a second yellow card, you can appeal it? As it was, I'm sure it was something. We will need to check it for another pod. But I'm sure something changed in Europe where it was this. I think it was this season during the summer. They said if you got a second yellow and you get sent off with it, and you've got the right to appeal it if it was a wrong decision. So I think Rangers, if they can, I think they'll appeal that because that's never a sender off. He's been up to get the ball. His arm's not went in with any force. It was the same with the Jeffy one against Dynamo Kiev last season. In fact, probably even less than the Jeffy one against Dynamo Kiev last season, I'm being honest. So I think if they can appeal it, I think they'll appeal it on that one because I don't think that one for me is a yellow card at all. The first one, Marty, I absolutely take your point on. The first one for me, there's no need for him to dive in at that point in time. Absolutely no need for it. And I think that's my big frustration with Diamande sometimes is that he's too many times he dives in, especially when there's 70-30 against him. He's not going to get the ball. Barron's cute with it. Barron does it more 50-50, 55-45 time is the way he looks at it. Someone would ask him, but Diamande, I think, leaves himself open. And that's where the criticism comes from, Marty, I think, because he does leave himself wide open and then it impacts the team later on in the game like tonight.
See, I think you've made a good point there because he has shown in spells in quite a lot of games that he does have the ability, and he showed that tonight, and obviously he showed it when he scored in the previous game as well. He has got that ability to help the team going forward, but he then makes rash decisions which then cost the team. And if he can cut that out of his game, because I know he's still a relatively young lad, if he can cut that out of his game, then that would seriously help the team overall. And I agree with you, whereas Barron's a little bit more smart with it. He won't just dive in like that. And I think that's where somebody needs to, whether it's Danny or one of the other coaches, need to pull him aside and say, here, look, these kind of tackles that you're putting in, you need to change your approach slightly and it will stop the bookings. And I do agree that the sending off was harsh, and if they do have an opportunity to appeal it, because I'm not sure on that rule. I think you might be correct, but I'm not sure on that. If they do have a chance to appeal it, I'm sure they will be.
I've just checked it, Martin. I know Gordon's put it in the chat as well, so thanks, Gordon, for confirming. But Gordon says you can't appeal the second yellow European football. I've just checked. Apparently, it's a rule. I remember seeing it. The rule's coming in from next season, not this season. So the rule's coming in. It says from next season, second yellow cards are set to be reviewable, especially if it creates a sending off offence as well at that point in time. So they're saying that it is going to be brought in from next season, but not this season. I knew I'd seen it somewhere, guys. I knew it. Some one of those ones.
I think there may be at some point. Sorry, I think there may be at some point, and going from our recent track record, a comment made from the club regarding the decision, and they'll seek an apology for the decision, and they'll have it looked at. Although it can't be reversed, they'll have it looked at and an apology if it's deemed to be the wrong decision.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Andrew, just as Martin touched on there, about like somebody basically putting the arm around Diamande and talking about these kind of tackles and stuff. Obviously, they went down to 10 men and they grew stronger in the game. And I think this is a failure of the recruitment over the summer, is that if we had somebody on the bench that we could bring on, now that I think should have been Rothwell, who should have been that midfielder that we bring on and kind of shores up everything and is like your sort of safety net. Like the example would be a Stephen Davis. You know what you're getting when you bring him on. He's going to bring that calmness to everybody. I think the team is lacking that, not just defensively, but in the midfield and up front as well. There's just that leadership and just that calmness from a certain couple of players that you know you can bring on and you know what you're going to get, and they're just going to keep everybody in check. I think that's something we're sorely missing.
100%. We need people on the bench like we've had previously, like Ryan Jack, people that you can turn to, that you can bring on, that can help stabilise a game. You looked at that bench tonight, and I know I don't really want to call it an injury crisis. We've got a couple of injuries at the minute, but you looked at the substitute bench, Adamson, Cameron Curtis, obviously Liam Kelly, Kieran Wright. You just haven't got that experience there. And the other kind of players that are on there, Asgard, Antman, you just haven't got them players that can just come on and just calm the game down and go, right, we're a goal to the goods. They've got 10 men. Let's just control this game now and game manage it. Yeah, we haven't got that experience, and that's where we do have to look. And I think it's something that's going to be difficult as well, because again, that January transfer window, it's just not the best one. If you can pluck someone like a Rothwell, to be fair. Now, jury's out on Rodwell still at the minute. Again, somebody that seems to blow out of his backside after about 55 minutes into a match just isn't what you need at Rangers, even if he is coming on late in the game. But yeah, we do need that. There's so many players' names that go through your head now, and you just think, my goodness, we could do with them. But yeah, we definitely need that. We need that experienced head, somebody that's been around, that knows how to help control a game and just kind of settle everyone down, get just the easy passing going, and just start moving it around, control that game and see it out, because we are lacking that drastically now.
Yep, that's it. I think it's something we are drastically missing. Like you say, it's between us. Let's say, I think we need it in the entire spine of the team. Front to back. We just need that experience coming in and to be able to bring off the bench in situations like this, where the team's down to 10 men. You could go after them if you bring on the right quality, and we just don't seem to have it. And we did look vulnerable those last 10 minutes. They were certainly more up for it than we were. I think we got very, very nervous, and I think we just need that sort of calming presence in the team. It's something that's very much lacking. Folks, coming up to nearly 50 minutes here. We've covered pretty much majority of the game. I'll go around the houses and just get a man of the match for each of us. Before I do that, I'll just give a shout out to our new shop, which is available on Etsy. If you just search the Rangers Journal on Etsy.com, you'll see that we have a vast range of products just in time for Christmas. I got myself this hoodie. It's called the McGregor hoodie. Andrew's also wearing the same one as well, so we're flying the flag here. Fantastic quality. Can't fault it at all. Also, it's the Rangers Journal logo on the back. Great stuff. There's mugs. There's all sorts of stuff there. So go and have a look and get your nearest and dearest wee something for Christmas. There's a journal there. There's a logo there, as Andrew's showing. It's a cracking wee hoodie. My man of the match then, I went for Barn. I thought he was terrific. I was sad to see him go off, but I can understand why he came off. I think they keep him fresh for the weekend, because he's going to have a bit of a scrap on, I think, against Falkirk. Chris, just your thoughts, man of the match?
Same, Barron for me. Jock, I thought he played tremendous. Some of the balls he was pinging about, that was fantastic. That pitch tonight was tremendous, and his energy, his work rate, his desire for Rangers. For me, he's the first man on the team sheet at the moment, out with obviously Jack Butland. So no, I think Conor Barron. I think he's done really well. Maybe last season started off the season well, then he kind of tailed off a little bit. I just hope this season he can push forward and maybe get the spot that he deserves in the Scotland squad for the World Cup in the summer, because I think he's been playing tremendous, and look, it just puts his value up. If he keeps playing the way he's going at the moment, it puts his value up, and you never know where we can end up with that one. But no, he was the man of the match for me. But I just want to say, for those hoodies, they are absolutely tremendous. These are making me and Marty look like fools at the minute, because we have not got a Rangers Journal hoodie on. But I can tell you what I'm doing right after this. I'm going to that Etsy shop and I'm buying one of those Rangers Journal hoodies, because they look absolutely fantastic. So they're doing. These are looking smacking, boys. They really are. Andrew,
your man of the match?
Oh, without a doubt, 100% Chumiti. I think he was. No, I'm joking. I think There were times in the game where Raskin did up it a little bit and started to play a little bit better, but he was a bit inconsistent tonight. But he did have some good opportunities. But I think the most consistent player probably was between Barron and probably Butland. And I think Butland had a couple of hairy moments, but Connor Barron, yeah, some of his passing was pretty decent, and it was an assured performance. He kind of almost didn't stand out in some respects because he was just so assured, but he was definitely levels above some of the other players in the park tonight. Some players really did kind of wilt tonight, sadly. But yeah, Connor Barron, it's good to see a Scottish homegrown player play well like that in Europe.
And Marty, just your man of the match, please.
I do agree with Andrew about the Butland shout. However, my man of the match would have to go to Gassama. I know that would be a little bit controversial, but my reason for it would be he was our only real output when we were attacking. We didn't have nothing down the left, nothing really through the middle, because the Braga were holding the middle ground pretty well, and Gassama was the one that was running down the wing with the ball and trying to get the next play on. So for me, just for that purpose alone, and the fact that that's how the penalty come about was a Gassama attack, I believe. So for me, I would have to go Gassama, and the fact that he was playing on the opposite side from his normal position.
Okay, doke. I give an honourable shout out to Butland. I know Butland's getting a bit of grief in the comments there, but I think given the conditions, I think he handled the corner and the shot at the end quite well, considering that the ball was kind of going all over the place. As they said, Chris said, we were putting the balls high in the box. We really should be keeping it on the deck. Braga tried to take advantage of that. Almost paid off, because I thought at one point Butland had threw the ball at the net again, just in the sort of dying moments of the game, but thankfully he didn't. So he kept us on it. So I think Butland's on a good shout as well. Folks, thanks very much for joining us. We are back tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I believe, with our usual Friday afternoon show, and then we'll obviously do post-match, pre-match on Sunday for the Falkirk game at Ibrox as well. So thanks again for joining us, and just remember, every night it's a Rangers Journal night. See you.